Okay, welcome back. I think it's time to attempt to film Supply Chain Wars episode 5, I'm calling it. I think we covered enough on Lucas Solutions with part 1 and part 2, even though the company continued to exist, and I'll get into that in this episode. Um, I think that was really the downfall after losing the building and everything I talked about in the last episode. Um, so this episode 5, is going to be mainly focused on Rabot, Rabot. Website is rabot.us. And I'll talk about another little company called Highline Commerce because I met them at the same time, um, and a few other folks along the way. But those are the main. Rabot is the main company I'm going to focus on in this episode. There's a lot to cover. With this company, but I'll try to keep it brief. I won't get into all the details, which I have everything documented from, thank God, from everything I did with that company. Everything I've been through and experienced, I basically document everything I do, every little detail. But before I talk about all that, I do want to provide a little bit of a commentary on the latest going on with Rider System Inc. I find it interesting that I've been calling for Robert Sanchez to resign in disgrace for the last, basically since like end of July, August, and all of a sudden he's retiring. I just find it interesting. There's a pending SEC investigation coming, as you know. I think I've mentioned, I've reported everything and provided evidence to the SEC of everything I know is going on, but I believe is going on at Ryder. And who knows what other crimes there are and other things going on there. Maybe I didn't realize what I was getting into in messing with Ryder. It might be much worse than I ever thought, which would make sense as to the extent that they were willing to go to stop me from being successful in this industry. So, sorry, I got a text from a friend who's agreeing with me in the industry in supply chain, who's like really interested in the story now, which is cool. You know, that's all I need. I don't need a million people and a million followers looking at this thing. It's, you get to the right folks that start to go, Ryder. So yeah, I just find it very interesting. I kind of saw the writing on the wall, as I've mentioned in previous videos and posts. Robert Sanchez was selling quite a lot of stock along the way this year. And they're pumping it up by buying it themselves, buying their own stock. There's nobody left to sell it other than the large institutions, which I encourage to get the fuck out of Ryder stock. Vanguard, BlackRock, all the big names. I know I'm probably putting more targets on my back by calling out those folks too. But I think if maybe they know what's going on, or they don't, I really don't know anymore. But if they knew what was going on, I think they would get the fuck out of Ryder stock. That's not something you want to hold, and not in this market, and not based on everything I've seen and what they're doing. So let me get back. That's my update on what's going on at Ryder from what I see. I can't help myself but monitor what they're doing, because I'm so excited that at some point in my lifetime, I know I'm going to watch that company come crashing down. And it's going to be, even though I won't get paid what I deserved, and my life is very miserable because of it, and all the other things that they've done that are connected. I didn't really get into all of it other than the threatening text from Jeff Wolpov back in February of 2024, but there are some weird things. I'll try to mention some of them in this episode because they are a little bit connected. But all right, let me get into storytelling mode about Rabot here. Another one that's tough to talk about because, as you know, when I left off the last episode, we're in like a downward spiral of everything going wrong that could possibly go wrong, and more going wrong than could possibly go wrong with Lucas Solutions. Unfortunately. Hey, Scotty, man. So, as I mentioned in the last episode, I did have a call with this warehousing technology that involves some AI called Rabot. And I met them. I had a virtual call while I was at the Beauty Connect conference after losing the warehouse, I'm at this conference. I was like, might as well take this call with this warehouse tech company. I need as many contacts as I can to figure out what I'm going to do next, so it can't hurt. So that was the only call that I took that day. And they had, I think they were the ones that mentioned one of their clients out of Brooklyn, this 3PL called Highline Commerce, and the CEO, Richard Hurley. And I still had I had extra tickets for the Mets game, the closing event that we were doing. We were at like 45 confirmed out of the 60 seats that I had for the section. So I was like, listen, the Rabot guys, after a great call with meeting the founders, I was like, you're welcome to come or invite some clients to come to the game. It's all paid for and covered. And being as one of their main clients, Highline Commerce in Brooklyn was pretty close by, I got in touch with him, with Richard Hurley, and invited him to the game because I did have a very good roster of beauty brands, large ones, small ones, mid-size, some really big names too, that were attending the game with me, which would have been awesome if I had a warehouse and an operation to show them and tell them that I could handle some business for them. But besides the point, right? So I'm making the most of it at the event. I'm still thinking, keep making connections, stay positive. I'll figure out my next move. I'm creative. I know how to pivot better than anyone. I just had to believe that I could figure something out, even though I really didn't know what the plan was. And trust me, in the 2 weeks from losing the building to the event, wasn't enough for me to have a real game plan. So I'm making the most of it. I'm connecting and networking with everyone, which is what I do best. Drinking my box of wine, enjoying the last of the weekend here. So I was excited that the Rabot founders were very nice. And I'm going to say this before I get into it. Sometimes that's the most dangerous kind of people there are, right? The ones that are so nice to your face. And then it took me some time. Usually I can get a good read on people, but the real bad ones and the really good ones are tough to differentiate, right? They both seem the same, but the ones that are just lying to you and planning to use you and are smart enough to know how to cover that up, it's very hard to tell. And unfortunately, I seem to run into those and trust those people all the time and end up working with them or doing things with them and getting screwed over, which I keep saying screwed over. It teaches you valuable lessons. I know at some point in my life I'm going to look back and this will all be just incredible learning experience, even though the financial burden right now is, I haven't quite figured out how to climb out of that yet. I'm owed so much money that I've earned in this industry. My life should be very different than it is now, which has been hard to grasp, right? But I do have a great executive coach that I've had for a long time. And even though I can't afford his rates, he still is more of a friend and continues to work with me. So I'm very thankful for him. And I hope he knows that. And I'll know if he watches this video, if he mentions me calling him out. I won't say his name just yet, but he reminded me that it always does remind me, it could always be a lot worse. And it's something my grandfather always used to say. Don't ever say it can't get any worse. And this was my grandpa Lucas. That I got to give my grandpa Lucas. I didn't mention this in the last episode either, and I do want to, when there's a positive thing to talk about, I do want to say it. Before he passed away, I want to say maybe a few weeks or a month before, he hadn't really taken a bad turn yet. He was doing okay. I got to bring him a bunch of Lucas Solutions gear at a time when things were looking really good. We were doing well. As I said in the last episode, everything was firing on all cylinders. And it was like the coolest thing ever. He was just so proud to put on his Lucas Solutions shirt and his hat. And he was showing it off to all his friends at the home. I have no regrets on starting the company just for a moment like that with my grandfather. He taught me so much, did so much for me. The entire time I was in supply chain, he was my first phone call every time I closed a deal. No matter the size of the deal, even if it was like a small one, he always asked me he be my first phone call, even before my parents. He literally said, before you call anyone, before you call your mom and dad, please call me with the news. I want to know. Um, so we had a cool thing. So that was part of why it was hard. Like things were going great, and that was the person I loved to call when I had good news. Losing him was tough, but it also drove me to continue to build something. I knew I was doing it for the right reasons and with a good purpose and a good mission, to build a great culture. And I know he's probably still proud of me today, even though things kind of derailed and I'm not where I'd like to be. And I don't feel like it's honoring him the way I would like to honor him, but yeah, I think he'd still be proud of the effort. So, geez, I kind of got all excited to tell you that story about my grandfather, and I lost track of where I was. I wish I could stop and go back in the video to see where I was. So anyway, I meet these Rabot founders, right, and Highline Commerce, invite them to the game. I don't think Richard Hurley thought about coming from Highline Commerce, but he wasn't able to make it. But it seemed like I had all of a sudden built a few really valuable relationships, like those Rabot, Highline Commerce, which I loved when I saw what they were doing at Highline Commerce. What attracted me about that was he was handling the smaller brands and taking startups, and that's what I was planning to do, was help the smaller brands grow. So it was like, there's a good ally for me, a good resource of someone who's doing something similar to what I'm going to be doing or plan to do. Maybe at the time I still thought I could get another building or somehow pull this off. So I'm like, there's somebody in New York doing a similar thing, and man, I can send him leads that want to be in New York. He can send things to me in New Jersey. I'll have more available space in New Jersey than he has in his. Brooklyn can get kind of tight, and he already had a lot of clients. So I was like, if he ever needs overflow space for anything, just seemed like a really good partnership, not a competition. Plus, we had built software, right? And I'm like, maybe he'll have some clients that, I doubt it, but maybe he'll want to have some interest in the software we built because it was pretty cool, and my CTO is amazing who built it. I'll know if he watched this video too, because he'll text me that I was talking about him. So anyway, I kept in close contact with one of the Rabot founders, this guy Chana Ranatunga. Just genuinely seemed like my kind of guy. Same thing with Richard Hurley. Just seemed like laid back, chill, but get shit done, know what they're doing, and no bullshit, have fun at the same time, make the most of it. Just really, and always willing to help people. That's what I thought. And that's where I'm usually good at reading people, but turns out I was wrong about these guys. They're the type that, I'm telling you, the worst, right? They seem like the type that will have your back and be there for you, and they'll say those things. But when it really comes down to it, all they care about are themselves, and they're greedy, which that's a major sin in my book. Like being greedy and hurting other people to line your own pockets, like one of the worst. Because as I told you, I wish I need to do better with caring about money, at least to have enough. Because I've never had to worry. I've never ever been in a position where I didn't have more than enough. And purposely, I work hard enough for that, and I plan for that, so that I can take care of my parents, and not take care of them like they need it, but I like to do nice things for them, and give them a better life than they have. Like, just, they deserve the world in my mind. So it was dangerous, and I never, it took me too long to pick up on these things, like way too long, years, or at least a year, to figure out what they were really like underneath the mask of being kind and helpful, and they're really just looking out for themselves. So I'm working closely, just meeting with Chana, talking. I was very interested in learning more about their technology. I thought it was a cool product, something I wanted to put in my own warehouse. I actually did them a favor when they hadn't signed enough clients to hit their goal for the quarter and present to their board, which there really is no board, but to their investors, I guess. and he was like, "Can you sign the contract as a client just so we add enough logos?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." It was like literally signed it right before midnight at the close of the quarter. It must have been June 30th. Um, so they could hit, instead of 29 new, or instead of 10 new logos or 9, they hit 10, which was their target or something for the quarter. Happy to do that, and I was still hopeful that I would find a way to launch and open a warehouse somewhere, even though I lost my building, and use their tech at my pack stations. I thought it was cool enough. I didn't really dive into the details of how it worked and what was going on there until later on, but it was cool enough, and it sounded cool enough that I knew I could sell it. It was just like when you have robots in a warehouse, it's the client's going to be more impressed when they come, and whether you're talking about it virtually or on a call, or whether they come see it, it's something that impresses a client, even if the robots aren't the most efficient or really doing anything of value. Because there are some warehouses that don't need robots, where they're not adding any value to what the humans can do. Things have changed significantly with robotics and things. I'm not knocking robotics. I always joke throughout my supply chain career that we should get some Roombas and put boxes on them rolling around the warehouse when we have clients come through, so it looks like we have robotics, even just to impress them visually. Um, but so I met with Chana quite a bit, and he was really helpful to me. Like, I thought I really made like a new friend. I viewed him as a friend and someone that I wanted to also help. I could add a lot of value. I'm one of the best salespeople in supply chain, had been for the last 8-9 years, and they were in need of some help when it came to sales. And I was still thinking I could make it and figure out a new way to launch my own warehouse. Kind of lost the whole first client having their warehouse and team already. That whole thing just fell apart, as you know. So I'm thinking maybe I could go raise some money, like do a real fundraise and open a building. But it's very hard as a 3PL. It's not an attractive investment, which is why it makes no sense that rider stock is going up. Like, it's just not an attractive industry to invest in right now, or ever. 3PL space is tight margins. You're competing with a lot of 3PLs that exist, a ton. There's too many good ones out there. But I knew I could be different, right? I'm different. My connection with brands and clients and my network and ability to build software, and the fact that I was building something special based on what I learned doesn't work at a company like Ryder. The culture is what matters. But that's a hard sell to investors. Nobody wants to invest in the 3PL space. Even though we had our own technology, we had an existing first client that I thought maybe if I take my own building and just let my client move in there, that solves him losing the building. And I had all these, I was trying everything to save the company. And I wanted to do it because we had so many people like helping me and invested and giving me their time and energy, and all these. I had a list of people that I was ready to give equity to, and I'm not like an asshole when I say that. There's files with the percentages for certain people that did things for me, and I wasn't shy about it. I'd rather own 1% of my own super successful company because I gave 99% away than own 50% or 51% or 75%, whatever, of a company that doesn't make it. So I was willing to give equity to the right folks, and to people that were there for me and had my back, including some family that like met with me. I officially wrote them letters saying you will be granted 1%. I had this whole kind of plan of, if I kind of wanted to eventually only own 1% of my own company, because in my mind I was like, that gives me 99%. Well, I didn't have 99 left, but that allows me to bring in all these incredible partners, even if they don't all work out. Like I was going to give Tommy DeVito equity to come on as an endorsed athlete for Lucas Solutions. And we were it gets me so excited talking about that negotiation. It wasn't even a negotiation. It was like so close to being finalized. We were in the third round of edits. And the cool part was, I loved it. Tommy came back, and his agent, Sean Stellato, they just wanted additional equity if Tommy made the Pro Bowl, the Super Bowl. And I was like, what a fucking badass. As a backup quarterback, believing in himself enough that I was like, heck yeah, like whatever you want, man. You want extra equity for making the Pro Bowl? That will add value to my company too, and let's do it. Like we were so close if we didn't kind of collapse. Um, so anyway, I got distracted there talking about the fun stuff. Um, so with Rabot, very helpful. Chana and I hit it off. We loved hanging out. We were spending hours during the week and booking calls on the weekends to spend time together. I was getting up early before my fiance at the time was waking up so I could meet with him on a weekend for a few hours and game plan what was going on in his company, what was going on with my stuff. Um, and then I did partner with someone. I'll keep this brief. I don't want to mention the name here because he was a nice guy. Um, Partnered on the consulting front to kind of like manage leads together, but it really ended up that I think this person just wanted to take advantage of me and my network, and I learned that the hard way. And then once I started being treated like an assistant, not a partner, I got the fuck away from that. It's just maybe it's my fault, or those people are drawn to me because I'm too nice and easygoing, and they think I'm an easy target, which ends up biting them in the ass because I'm not. I'll be super nice until you fuck with me, and then or you bully me or you treat me poorly. Watch out when you do that. As you can see, I'm making fucking supply chain war videos for all the people that fucked me over, and this was planned for a while. Don't fuck with me. Maybe people used to get away with it. Don't ever fuck with me. So anyway, yeah, I did some things. We made a little money in that consulting partnership thing, and that had potential. Like if he didn't mistreat me and bully me and treat me like an assistant, and I realized he was just really taking advantage of me. That seemed initially like it had potential too, to kind of have my own consulting company and partners and grow it that way. And I like that it still had the freedom of making my own schedule. And I'm a hard worker. When I make my own schedule, I work my fucking ass off. I work more hours than most people at a full-time job, a lot more hours. And I work on the weekends because I'm excited when it's something that I have to do. It gives me purpose. I'm much better at making my own schedule, and I get more work done than when somebody tells me bullshit that I have to do and tedious work. So anyway, let me stay focused on Rabot because there's a lot to get to. This might have to be another part because I'm already at 22 minutes. I'm taking too long on the early parts of it, I think. But it's a good area to focus on because it was so promising. It was a warehouse technology company that attracted me. That it was different than what I had been doing. If I were to help them with sales, which Shanna offered, right? So they really needed help with sales. I didn't realize just how bad it was. That's part of it, right? They never really told you the full truth of what was going on, even once I started working with them. But they had some promising things, right? I'm told that Walmart was a client of theirs. That's a big deal, no matter how big or small the account is and what you're doing for them. I'm like, that's something I could use for sales, right? There's success there. So everybody will want to work with a company that or tech that Walmart chose. But we'll get to the real story there. And I knew I could help them. I had the network. I had brands that I could sell to. I knew all the 3PLs in our space. Like not all of them, but most 3PLs out there know me and I know them. And fortunate to be in that place because I was in the industry for so long and had a great reputation even after the rider bullshit. Oh, okay. So anyway, that went on for months with me and Shanna staying close and me kind of picking up the pieces and figuring out what to do with my own company. So I don't forget this. And I only learned this a couple months ago. It's very interesting to me. You might find like strange connections of all of this has weird connections and Ryder and Rabot and just everything in the supply chain 3PL space. And all those strange connections seem to fuck me over in some way. So there was a company while I was with .com that when I had leads, which I got a lot of leads that were maybe too small or weren't a good fit for .com, There was a small 3PL in New Jersey that I would send those leads to, called Fusion Fulfillment. And the founders and his daughter were amazing people. And I loved sending them leads. And I would kind of like, I always treated leads seriously until I just truly realized it wasn't a fit. Then it was, okay, let me hand you off to somebody. And then the long-term plan with that never really panned out was, if the small company grows and it gets big enough or too big for them to handle, they'll send it to us, back to us. Either way, great. It was, I loved knowing that I had somewhere to send every lead to. If it wasn't a fit for us, I could send them over to Fusion or somewhere else, but I would say the majority went to Fusion. And it turns out, when I talked, I called them at some point in 2024 to catch up. And it might have been after I lost the building and stuff, and I was like, let me call every resource I have, every friend I have in the industry, and just catch up and see what, maybe something will come up that will give me an idea or someone I can work with. And I catch up with the founder and his daughter. Amazing people, truly just like some of the coolest people ever. And not the ones that are faking it and trying to screw you over behind your back. These are real, just quality human beings. And it turns out they got this, like, out of the blue, amazingly, almost too good to be true offer to be acquired. Like, at the end of 2023, I think it was. And of course they took it, right? That's like, holy shit, retirement, done. So I lost I really lost a resource, a close one in the industry, which sucked. But I was so happy for them. Like, amazing to hear that. That gave me hope that what I was doing was right. So now every company I basically ever touched has exited successfully, from Tailored Services being acquired by Houston Logistics for $209 million, .com being acquired by Ryder, Fusion getting acquired by private equity. And I was just, it gave me more optimism and positivity that I'm on the right track. If I can figure this shit out. And they gave me some great advice, like, look, these things are going to happen. Taking on debt, it's scary, but that's the way you build something valuable for yourself. Eventually, it is going to pay off. Hasn't yet. I still hope it does. I hope that advice was right, because I really leaned into that advice of taking on debt. But anyway, so fast forward, right? You'll see how this comes to. It seems like it has nothing to do with Rabot. And I knew when I started working with Rabot, which I'll get to the details, but just so this story makes sense at the same time and connects. I knew they had this client, a pretty large client of theirs, called Fetch Fulfillment. I just didn't know that Fetch Fulfillment was the new name for the company that I helped grow, called Fusion Fulfillment previously, that got this out of the blue, too good to be true private equity offer to be acquired. And I don't want to say too good to be true. It was just like a really good offer that they weren't expecting. They deserved every bit of it. But then all of a sudden, so Fusion gets acquired by private equity, becomes Fetch Fulfillment, and they immediately become a pretty big client of Rabot. Around the same time, I'm meeting these founders at Rabot. Just really weird. I only learned this like 2 months ago, that Fusion became Fetch. And then I was like, Fetch is a huge client of Rabot, another company that fucked me over. Like, just all very, very weird that it's all connected. And I get it, it's a small industry. It's really not. There's a ton of 3PL companies out there. It's just weird that everything I touch is somehow connected, in a negative way towards me. So anyway, let me get to I wanted the focus here to be Rabot. So fast forward, I'm realizing, like, the consulting, although it's working and has the potential to support me and be my career, I was more excited about this technology company, Rabot, and I knew the value I could bring to them. They needed me, and I needed something to do that I was excited about. So it was like a perfect fit. And when I tell you, Chana was pumped to bring me onto the team, or initially, the way it started, Chana was saying, listen, we need sales help, so we're going to do outside consultants. You'll be like one of the first we'll bring on. Just any deals you send us, 20% commission in perpetuity. And I'm like, that's it needs to be that because it's a small, low price technology. So like, although compared to 3PL fulfillment services sales, which is a much lower percentage usually of the deal, 20% for a technology is like industry standard. And 20% in perpetuity makes sense as long as that client. I'm big on perpetuity. Like, if I ever even do commissions again, it's going to be perpetuity, or it's going to pay me up front because I never get fucking paid, as you know from all my stories. So anyway, I was like, yeah, dude, count me in. And we didn't need to put it on paper. It was a verbal contract because if I'm going to send you a deal, obviously I'm going to get paid, and you're out there telling people 20% commission. So we agreed to that. 20% commission, done. Any deals I send to them. And I started putting my pipeline together and, laying out clients that I could call for them and really planning it, learning their business. I feel like I'm missing some stuff about Rabot and telling this part, but let me get to it, and I can always come back. So fast forward, I started really like in October of 2024, and I figure they didn't really have a lot of large accounts. I know I mentioned Walmart, but it might have been like a small project they did with Walmart. Big name, not a huge contract, and we'll get some more on that. But I was like, I think I can get this tech into some pretty big 3PLs and some pretty big companies because they're companies I'm close with, and I think if I see the value in it and I was willing to use it myself, they're gonna believe me, obviously, and trust me, and they're gonna give it a shot at least. So the first one I started with was my old company that I've still felt, they owe me, but it's not even the same people there anymore. But I'm like, maybe karma is good. It's all going to come together. I'll close a huge deal for Rabot with my old company, Tailored Services, which is now a part of Houston Logistics, which is a huge public 3PL global company. I'm like, that's a big deal. I get this small little, Rabot was supposedly doing about $1 million in revenue. Very small for the industry, but for a tech company, and I guess something new with Vision AI, I knew by adding me, I knew I could probably double their revenue myself, at least, if not a lot more. So I'm thinking this is a great first account to bring to the table, and mind you, I'm not working for them full time. This is just purely 20% commission in perpetuity only, which is fine, right? At the time, I'm not where I'm at now, where I will never, ever, ever do anything that's commission only ever again. I've been burned too much. I don't trust anyone. It really sucks. Like, I just can't trust anyone in any business conversation ever, mainly because of Ryder. And what happened before with Tailored, but Tailored, Ryder, and then you'll see what happened with Rabot and Highline Commerce, and you just can't trust anyone at all, which really sucks. That's why I'm probably going to change industries completely. I just can't stay in an industry. I'm hoping the industry change will guide me towards more trustworthy people, and I'll be able to build that trust up again. So anyway, I start really speaking with the people at Tailored Services, now part of Houston Logistics. I'm having a lot of conversations with the folks there, saying, building up how cool this tech is, and that it was something I was going to use in my own warehouse. All true. None of this is bullshit. It's not like I'm selling, being salesy with them. This was something I was planning to put at my own pack stations in my own warehouse. I think you should check it out. I think it could be a differentiator enough, which is why I was going to use the tech, because I can sell something like that when I say I have AI at my pack station. This was even before. Imagine this was a little over a year and a half ago. Things were different with AI, and I felt like I was at the forefront of it by having it at my pack stations or wanting to. And that was before I learned how it really works, and not all it's cracked up to be. And I'm not just saying that because they fucked me over. It just wasn't what I expected. Um, so anyway, it turns out I have a lot of interest from Tailored and Usen, and let me fast forward this. So I'm making intros for these guys and crushing it, but I'm also like, I have to figure out some source of income that's not commission only, like future income. And it just really worked out well when I'm continuing to chat with Chana at Rabot, and they needed somebody on sales. And they needed somebody not just commission, like they needed help with everything, with like their sales materials, their processes. They had a couple sales guys on the team, and they were not having any success. They were not closing any deals. The founders weren't closing deals. Sales team wasn't closing deals. So it seemed like the perfect match. Bring in an expert in supply chain sales who's been successful everywhere he's gone, who's already on a commission deal with you and making intros. And I could show you the emails go back to October. So this was like November 24. We come to an agreement, and we're like, I'll give you half of my time during the week, because I still was doing my own consulting and helping some brands find the right 3PL, and I wasn't 100% sure Rabot was like the right full-time fit. I didn't know enough still. Anyway, so we agreed to like a base comp for half my time during the week. And mind you, half my time during the week was really, they were getting my full like 40-hour week plus. Like I was giving them all my time, because I had other things going, a few other projects and brands I was helping, but it doesn't take up a lot of time. And I was giving these guys everything. And then eventually, the only adjustment we made to that was additional base for me to be kind of like really full time. Like, and that took me from like giving them my full week to like nights full time, like 60 to 80 hours a week, if not more. Weekends, like every weekend. Like I was just constantly, I became Mr. Rabot. And my network knew that. And my network is very valuable, which they ended up taking from me as well. We'll get to that. So this is like November. I forget the exact dates and times of when we switched from like, 20 hours a week, which was, I was giving them 40, to like just full-time Rabot. And I became head of business development. We changed the title over. Now they were still paying me. The best structure for me was they hired my consulting entity. Like everything made sense to do via my consulting entity for tax purposes, and like with the situation I was in and the debt I had taken on. So we worked out a pretty reasonable. I wasn't making enough to like live the dream by any means, but the hope was, as long as I'm making what I need to survive. And I also did it because I wanted my fiance at the time and I to have like a little bit of a life. Still wasn't the life we should have had because I was so fucked over and all the money I was owed from these other companies that never paid me. But I'm rebuilding again, right? Just doing what I have to do. And I knew I could sell this technology, and I did. I closed 9, 10, 11. I have to look back at the exact numbers. Like, I was the only one at this company closing deals. I gave them the grind, as I told you, like 60 to 80 hours a week, working every weekend, taking calls that they were required on weekends. Some weekends, they'd be like, we have a call, we're bringing this guy on, a new marketing guy, a new GTM guy. Like, we need everybody on a Sunday for 2 hours to come talk with him. And I'm like, do we though? Like, really? In the end, now I know who it was, and they did absolutely nothing for the company. And I'm like, you built up this guy. Where was the build-up for bringing me onto the team? I'm probably the most valuable person you've ever hired, which I was. And I'm the only one that closed deals for these guys. If you look, if they're ever transparent, oh, there's so much to talk about. I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me go back. Chana had told me before I started that they had successfully raised done a fundraise. I think $5 million. And they hadn't announced it publicly, which is weird. You see every company on LinkedIn and all over the place, social media, when you close a fundraise, you announce it because that leads to more deals and more business and more publicity. But I found it weird, but I never questioned it, why they never announced it publicly. I wonder where the money came from, if it was real, if they actually raised the funds. Who knows? They still haven't ever posted it. But they claim to have raised, and I believe them, never a doubt in my mind, $5 million at a $30 million valuation or whatever. I guess this is me. I guess this is their public announcement, me telling it publicly, because it's part of my story. I don't give a fuck. So never got announced. I always found it weird. I'm like, when are you gonna announce the fundraise? When are you gonna, like, that'll get us some publicity. I can capitalize on that as the head of business development and probably get more deals from it. We'll get more leads coming in because people see a tech company that raised money that gives you some form of legitimacy. Still to this day, never announced it publicly. And they were very weird about money. So I start working for them. Even my first trip to California for like an all-hands company meeting to see the new headquarters in San Francisco. I go out there. I didn't have the money to lay out, but I did it. And I was in the middle of like about to lease a new apartment in Jersey City. And I laid out over $2,000 for me, and I brought my fiance, but that's not the $2,000 I paid for that. But they were supposed to reimburse me quickly for the expenses. I told them, like, I didn't have a company credit card yet, even though they had promised it, so I wouldn't have to lay out the money for the travel. But I laid out the money for the travel and did all that. And it took them like 3 weeks to finally 3 weeks late in reimbursing me, which made me have just a little less than I was supposed to for my like initial security deposit and upfront, like all that stuff for leasing my apartment. So I was like a week and a half, 2 weeks late on part of it, which became a problem now. At the time, once I paid it, it was no issue, and I always paid my rent on time. But anyway, now another cool thing that I thought was cool, I brought someone onto my team because she seemed like, this was a startup, right? So everything's on the table. I'm like, listen, there's somebody I want to bring onto my team to help me sell for Rabot. Do you have the budget to add an extra, like, it wasn't expensive, this much per month. And she's so well connected at some companies that I'm not, that I haven't met. Like, it could really, and we work well together. Like, this could really be a huge opportunity. They were interested, and we did it. And it was like a 6-month arrangement we put in place. And it was going perfect, like just fine. Like, and they were late. I was always paying her on time, and they were late and always reimbursing the money. And I was tight on money. Like, I told them this is just what they were paying me for the base before the commissions that we had agreed on, the 20%. The base was like just what I needed to survive. The rest I had to earn. I had to earn my living, right? That's always the case in sales, and I'm always okay with that. That's why for 10 years I've been working on a lower base salary than I should be, because when it comes to commissions, there's no ceiling. Now I realize there's no ceiling, but when you go high enough, they're never going to fucking pay you. So there's really, the floor is always, you're always going to end up on the floor. That's funny how that term really came to be true. So they ended up out of nowhere, like, canceling her 6-month deal 2.5 months in, which is weird for a company that just raised $5 million, and we're talking like a few $100 a month, like not a huge expense for someone who's going to was in the process of bringing in one deal alone that she was working on, more than covered her cost. Same for me, right? A couple of the deals that I had closed, once expanded, I'm more than covered. Like, forget the base salary you're paying me, I'm making you way more than that, and that's why commissions come into play. So I closed some enormous deals for this company. I got them visibility with some of the biggest brands out there. I got Best Buy, literally. I made my way to the head of supply, like VP of supply chain for Best Buy. who I'd never met before, but worked my way up through like crazy. The way I just did my thing. This is what I do in sales, and they were like blown away by it because I had said Best Buy would be a cool company as a target. I'm gonna go after them, and I did. I fucking got into it. And at a conference last year, I had the chief supply chain officer of Best Buy coming by their booth to look at their technology and like saying that we need this in our warehouse. Like, all things were good. I was Mr. Rabot. I was closing deals left and right. The only one at the company. Founders weren't closing deals. The other sales guys weren't, unfortunately. Not their fault. They were misled by poor leadership. I realized once I was inside. Chana Ranatunga, Asura Ranatunga, and Sandeep Suresh, the three co-founders, just terribly run company. Like, they have no fucking idea what they're doing. Like, so disorganized, never on time for calls, sometimes don't show up at all. Telling, like, what they had been guiding their sales team to go after, and it was just so dumb and so poorly executed. Not even the salespeople's fault. The salespeople that were there, I think, are amazing and could have been extremely successful with the right leadership. But again, even I fell for and didn't see the real story until I was inside for 9 months at the company. But again, I'm having all the success, so winning solves everything. I still kind of believe that, even though it didn't work at Ryder. So I'm winning deals. I'm literally the only one. Like I said, 9 or 10 deals in 9 months. So let me see where the reason I didn't bring up a lot of the issues that were once I really started to see what was going on with this company and the poor leadership and poor execution, and they weren't. I think that I don't know how deep it goes with the lies they were telling us, but they kept saying, Walmart's going to renew this contract, and it never happened. I actually ended up finding out somebody called me asking about a bid they were working on for Walmart, and it turns out another company, and it was the bid for the deal that Rabot was telling us they had already won. So it was just like, and their targets, the way that they forecasted, like, here's our sales goals. My God, they were so fucking bad. Like, we're gonna close 5 million this year, and the realistic goal would have been more like to say 500,000. Maybe with me, you could get it to 1 million because I'm actually closing deals. But like, that's how far off and like disconnected they were from reality. So that whatever bullshit targets they gave, I didn't really even analyze the targets. I knew I'm just going to go in, put my head down, and close fucking deals the way I do, which I did. I didn't really understand that they gave me like targets that they themselves as an entire group couldn't even hit as my own. But anyway, so I'm doing my thing. I know every time I'm closing a deal that can once expanded, right? So like a company like Houston Logistics, for example, has hundreds of facilities across the world, in the U.S., like even hundreds in the U.S. Getting into one facility initially is all like, that's it. Like that, once you're in, then you expand. Once they like the tech, you prove it. Okay, let's add it to this warehouse. Let's expand it to 10, to 20. And I closed some big deals for them. And I covered meetings that they didn't show up for at a client in New Jersey that was just like a check-in meeting. And I turned that into a new opportunity to expand with the company that ended up closing like right when I left. $250,000 a year account. So 20% commission, that's worth $50,000 a year to me. But again, like always, never got not 1 cent of the commission I was owed. Not 1 fucking cent. And I let it go for most of the time I was there during the 9 months, thinking they just don't have a process yet for paying commissions because they never close deals. They never actually have a salesperson that's closed a fucking deal where they owe a commission. So it's not like it goes into a system and it gets paid automatically. I just gave them the benefit of the doubt that it's coming at the end of the quarter or the end of the year, like whatever. And they'll eventually put a process in place. And before that deal that I mentioned that was worth $250,000, so $50,000 a year to me, that I only closed at the very end. Then I would have said something like, where's my commission? Like, let's start paying this now. But the leadership was just so bad, and what Chana did as co-founder, I think he was formerly the CEO, but his brother is Sura. Like, talk about a fucking cocky asshole, narcissist, greedy son of a bitch who I never even want to be associated with or friends with. My God, let alone having to work for. Just literally the most egotistical, cocky asshole you'll ever meet. But Chana, you believe all these things that he had promised me as a co-founder, and I thought he had which he has the authority to do. He ended up using his brother as leverage to say like, but Asura has to approve it. It wasn't really like something I could promise to you. So once I figured out they're probably trying to get out of paying me any commission at all. And they're not showing up for meetings, wasting my time, making me look bad. It just got really like ugly. And then people started to leave before I ended up walking out of there. 6 people left in the 6 months before I left Rabot. And I didn't really leave. I laid out exactly what was promised. I just wanted everything papered finally, like the 20% perpetuity commission. I didn't think that was going to be a problem. I was tired of having every payment be late. And they were late on paying vendors too. Like, they had signed a contract to sponsor the event that I had gone to and sponsored myself, Beauty Connect. They were like 6 months late in making the first payment for their sponsorship, which really sucks. So they like ruined relationships for me and my network. They ruined friendships with people that I had in the industry. They ruined my relationship with the Beauty Connect conference, because once I left, I told Beauty Connect, like, first of all, these guys haven't paid you, and they fucked me over, so why don't you just not work with them? I'll come to the conference. And I told them it's either me or Rabot coming, and apparently they chose the money, even though I paid them last year, and I paid them, actually fucking paid them. Another disappointment. Right, so there's Rabot again, fucking over my relationships in the industry, and again, why I'm totally leaving the industry. Like, I'm so fucking sick of it. So anyway, let me think. Where was I? Yeah, so eventually 6 people leave before me, and I can't blame them. They're also not closing deals or doing anything of value. I'm the one who's got a lot on the line. I've got 9 deals, 10 deals closed that owe me a lot of commission and are going to build once use and logistics expands to like from one facility to multiple facilities and beyond. Once maybe Best Buy actually becomes a client, or once Stasi America signs the contract, that's a $250,000 contract for them, so $50K a year to me. I've built too much of a future, and I've grinded for these guys, 60, 80 hours a week, working weekends for 9 months. I'm owed way too much, but I also do have to draw a line in the sand at some point. Like, if you're going to be wasting my time not showing up for calls anymore, and treating people poorly where other people are leaving, I've dealt with that at Ryder, and this is what I tried to get away from, being fucked over by idiots who. And okay, I did leave out something very important. I told Chana before I started, if I'm going to give you the grind, I know I'm going to be successful. I know I'm going to close deals, a lot of them, and some big ones for you. I need equity in the company. If I'm going to walk away from my own consulting company that I own 100% of and that has traction and success and projects going on, I need equity in the company. And he promised me that I would get equity in the company if I did my job, all right, and hit my targets, close enough deals. And again, I'm the only one at the company that was closing deals, so I'm the most valuable fucking person by the end. And I told him my timeline for that, I need equity by 9 months. I'm not going to grind any longer than that without getting what's promised. And from day one, we were doing equity calculations on the percentages and what I should get and what it's worth based on the fundraise they did, which who knows if that's even real. But basing on that, and so now that you know that, and that was discussed constantly and brought up a bunch of times. I have notes from every call on it. And I told them it's 9 months, and we agreed. Okay, no problem. So once I realized all this shit going on, which was like July of this year, Once I knew all these people leaving and they're lying and late payments on things and never really saw the truth of how much they raised, no financial transparency, lying about the Walmart deal, which never, eventually we realized is not happening. Like Walmart's not a client anymore. And that's a huge miss that was a big number in the forecast for the company. So I'm like, okay, let me just, you know what? I sent them an audit report as like a fun joke thing. Like, here's my audit report from being with you for 9 months. Here's what I need to see change. Like, leadership needs to have more clear direction. CEO is the CEO. This person showing up for meetings, a quarterly meeting, like a meeting cadence, organized meetings that actually happen and people hold people accountable. Because leadership was just not accountable for doing what they said, like, ever. Chana never fucking did anything. And he also had, towards the end of me leaving, just had a baby, which at the time I was excited about, but I realized it's only going to get worse with this. Like, he's just not going to be present, and we're going to be dealing with this asshole, Sir Ranatunga. So I papered everything that they had promised and what was owed to me, and said, look, here's how I want to structure it, and I want this signed off before, like, this has to be signed off immediately. The 20% commission, we're going to change to 20%. It's going to stay 20%, but I want 10% reinvested automatically into the company, because I had closed enough deals and had enough commission coming on top of my base that I'm like, okay, I'll be in a good spot, and I want to keep building my ownership in the company so that I own something valuable in the future. I'm building my future to build something valuable for me and my family, and to really feel like a part of it, because I am. I'm closing. I'm the only one closing deals with this company. I deserve a part of it, and I've been talking about this, and we agreed to it from day one. So, but I thought I'd be nice about it. Like, okay, put 10% back into the company immediately in case because it seemed like they needed money. They're tight on money, even though they raised $5 million. So I'm like 10% back into the company, and I get added to my equity at the most recent valuation. 10% to me. I offered to reduce my base by like $1,000 a month. I was like, I can make it work. I'll have commissions coming in. I'm trying to be fair and reasonable. And that was those were the main changes, other than what I laid out about like quarterly meeting cadence, more accountability from leadership, more clear direction from leadership, and who's doing what. And they kept saying, like, they wouldn't agree to anything. Oh, well, the board, there is no fucking board. They're the fucking founders of the company, and they brought on maybe one investor, if it's even true or real. But they kept playing us, this board has to approve it. I'm like, okay, well, if it's not papered, we're going to have a problem, so paper it. They're like, okay, we'll talk the next day. We'll do it tomorrow. That took place for about a week before I said, okay, you have until midnight to paper all of this and pay me my commissions that are owed, or this becomes a legal matter. And they never fucking did anything. I could show you the Slack conversations and everything. It was like, we're so sorry, we're busy with other things, blah, blah, blah. We will get to this soon, I promise, you're very important. Total fucking bullshit. Like, here's the deadline, sign off, give me the fucking equity, which I only asked for 2%, by the way, which was the bare minimum that I should have been. It really should have been more like 5% for what I had done, my contributions and the value I added to their company. Literally, like the actual value I added to their company of what those accounts were worth and what it does to the valuation, based on their previous valuation and fundraise, which we don't know if it's even true. So that was July 23rd, which coincidentally was like exactly 9 months that I had been working on a more full-time basis for them. So this becomes a legal matter. So to this day, I haven't gotten a cent of commission on any of the deals I've closed, including that one that's worth $50,000 a year in commission to me. And they even had the balls to take 30 days to pay me my transition pay, which was in the language of what was in the only written thing we had for the base, another month of base pay to like help me if I ever have to leave, which we didn't think we would. Chana had told me, you're with me for my life. Like, whatever I do, whatever company I own, even if it's not Rabot, like, you are our guy for the next at least 10 years and hopefully forever. You never have to look for a job ever again. And I believed that. I bought into it, which was, what an idiot. But now I've realized, like, just there's a reason that they haven't been more successful, and they've been around much like a long time. It's 2018, 2019. There's a reason they haven't grown and been successful, and I should have put that together, but again, I'm trusting of people. Um, so I'm leaving Highline Commerce out of this one, other than the story of how I met them, but maybe I'll tell it. This can be a little more than an hour. So part of what we had agreed with Rabot, I didn't want to fully shut down my own companies. They wanted me to delete it completely, remove it from LinkedIn. I was like, God forbid it, things don't work out. Thank God I didn't. I was like, plus there's some value there, right? I still get calls from brands that want help finding a 3PL, which I was doing on the side while doing 60, 80 hours a week for these guys, but it tied into their value, right? So these brands, when I'm telling them I'm with Rabot, wanted to be with a 3PL that had their tech. So I'm sending brands to, if I can, and direct them towards it, which I meant to, which was a good idea at the time, was to recommend it to a 3PL that had Rabot's tech. So their clients, which included Highline Commerce. Now, when I had that consulting entity, before I joined Rabot, Highline Commerce was one of the 3PLs we did a contract with to pay 2% commission in perpetuity for any deal we sent them. And this was when I had that consulting partner, right? So I ended that partnership, took the Rabot role, and Richard Hurley and I a couple times had conversations about it. I was like, look, Rabot still wants me to have my entity and work with brands because it makes sense. I'm sending a brand to a 3PL, it's a Rabot client, everybody wins. Plus, why would you want to turn that off? It's something great in the industry. And I didn't really want to. I liked having that as a backup plan. But again, now I'm looking to leave the industry, so it doesn't really matter. And I had a few brands that I ended up working with while with Rabot that I placed at 3PLs that had Rabot technology. Now, the deal I had come to with Highline Commerce while we were out in San Francisco in January of 2025, he was there for the Rabot team meetings and stuff. And we're walking in the streets of San Francisco, and I'm like, look, I know we haven't papered a new contract since I got rid of ended that partnership I had with the guy who had the contract with you for 2% in perpetuity, but my entity still exists. I'm still sending brands, still doing that stuff. He was like, yeah, no worries. We'll just do a new contract for you when you close a deal with me, on the same terms. You'll still get your 2% perpetuity commission. I'm like, perfect. Okay, done. So a few times I recommended brands to him, and we'll fast forward. And by the way, I ended up being responsible for moving more brands than most salespeople in the industry while I was with Rabot. I won't get into the brand names and who I helped, but I placed 4 brands during the 9 months of closing all those deals with Rabot. I also placed 4 brands at 3PL providers, most of which were 3PLs that had Rabot tech. But there was a brand that came in February of this year, 2025, that was referred by an old contact of mine in the industry, knew I was very good at helping brands, and so I spent a lot of time with this brand, and I had my main recommendation for them at the time that I believed made sense before I knew how much of an asshole this guy was, Richard Hurley. My main recommendation was 3PL in Brooklyn. This was a Brooklyn-based brand. And I'm like, this is perfect. You're going to go from running the operation yourself to a 3PL that's right there in your backyard in Brooklyn that you could always check on it. So I spoke so highly of Highline Commerce to this brand. We must have had 7 phone calls, hours of my time at night. I did it when I had time, but it was also correlated to Rabot because Highline Commerce is a client of Rabot. That's how I met him. So I spent a lot of time and effort with this brand to recommend Highline Commerce, knowing I'm going to get, it's not a lot, but I'll get my 2% commission in perpetuity. It's a nice deal. It gives me something every month, pays for something nice, to go out to dinner a couple times, take my fiance out at the time, ex-fiance, I should say. So fast forward to the departure from Rabot when they failed to sign anything that they promised and Still to this day, have not paid me any commission that they owe me, 20%. So I'm like down in the dumps for a bit there. August, September became tough. There was a lot of personal stuff going on too. More landlord problems, which I'll do another YouTube post about that shit. Harassed and bullied and harassed by a landlord that was like stalking me, harassing me, fucking crazy shit going on. And still dealing with that. But anyway, so I do get some good news income wise, because I was tight, really fucking tight for a period there, and still am. That this brand decided to go to Highline Commerce and sign the contract with them. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's a not huge, but it's good enough size brand that the 2% is nice. It's like, it gives me something. And I text Richard Hurley. I'm like, hey, they're signing with you. Congrats. I'm excited. Let's figure out the commission stuff. And he's like, what do you mean? Not like, eventually decides, after talking with Rabot, decides he's not going to pay me commission. He's like, no, you were with Rabot at the time. I was like, that has nothing to do with them. This came through from a contact of mine, totally separate, sent to my Lucas Solutions consulting company email. And I spent hours and hours since February on many calls with this brand to recommend your company and sell them on you. Like, how the fuck are you trying to get out of paying me? Just because we didn't paper a contract. Verbal contract counts. So he still owes me. I'm going to sue him or tell the story publicly to try to destroy this company, because he doesn't deserve to exist either. I really thought he had a great operation. It seemed like a nice person again, but he's in that same grouping that I put Chan around Tungan, where super nice and cool and to your face, but totally doesn't give a flying fuck about anyone but himself, and will fuck you over the first chance he gets to put more money in his pocket and be more successful. So brands out there, please watch out. Please be careful. Do not work with Highline Commerce. 3PLs and brands, do not work with Rabot. Do not fall for the bullshit about their technology, because I can get into it. This has just been a long enough call. It is not what they say. It doesn't do all the things that they say. The AI is not that impressive. Any AI model hooked up to your own cameras can do this shit for free that they're trying to say that they do. So, yeah, again, like, just continue to get fucked over in the industry, which is why I'm looking to leave it. And I don't think I could work in it anymore. I love all the brands I've ever worked with, though. Never been fucked over by the brands. I've done right by them. I hope the providers that I placed them at, even the one that went to Highline Commerce, I hope they do a good job for them. I love the brands. That was the most fun part of this industry. All these cool brands and products that are out there. That always, an exciting product gets me excited to help them with their fulfillment and their supply chain. Just like Pat McGrath Cosmetics, I was drawn to how beautiful their company was, their products, their logos. Yeah, I don't use makeup and shit. I'm not, but it was a beautiful company. Like the color scheme, their logos, just beautiful companies get me excited, and I want to help them. Sometimes to a fault, where I help them so much and don't get anything out of it, which ends up being the case always for me. And last thing, because I didn't have it on the last call, this was the sweatshirt when I took public company client the day one of Lucas Solutions to the basketball game that I bought for myself, him, his family, for my chief of staff. And then this is, I didn't have it with me at the time. These are the jerseys I had made for Jose Quintana, for him and his family. The Quintana jerseys. 62, Mets, Lucas Solutions. Who knows, maybe I'll make gear one day. But yeah, these were cool. It's a shame that Jose wasn't with the Mets anymore, but he had another great season, and I'm still a huge fan. I can't wait to see what he does next year. But we had some cool stuff, right? I mean, athletes and high valuations, and built their own tech, and every time I try to rebuild, so how many times is that? I just always get fucked over. I don't know. It's not, maybe it's me, but I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just a nice guy who does my job and works hard, but if you fuck with me and don't do what you promised, I'm going to fight back. I'm not one to just walk away. So, lesson to be learned for Tailored, Ryder, Rabot, Highline Commerce. You shouldn't have fucked with me. I know I'm nice, but don't fuck with me. Don't take advantage of me, because I will fight back. Most people don't, and they'll just walk away to avoid the fucking fight because sometimes it's not worth it if who they're fighting has more resources and capabilities. But fuck it, I will always fight for what's right. And my people that I've been involved with over the years, friends, family, will tell you that. If it's something that's very wrong and I don't like what's happening, or somebody else is being bullied or mistreated, I'm going to fight for them. Maybe that stems from being fucked over so much in this industry, and maybe even before then from being bullied. But I don't like bullies, and I'm always going to come after them. So watch out, bullies. Don't let me see you fucking with someone that I like or care about, or with anyone in general, and don't you dare fuck with me. Whether it's another industry that I'm coming into, do not fuck with me. I will do my part, and I'm the best friend you could ever fucking have. But you fuck with me, you better watch the fuck out. You better watch the fuck out. So, Tailored, Ryder, Rabot, Highline Commerce, watch the fuck out. I'm coming for you.